I'm Kimberly from Fat Quarter Shop, and if you're subscribed to this YouTube channel, you know I love quilts, and I know everything about quilts, but I know nothing about bags. So today I'm stepping out of my comfort zone, and I'm going to make the brand new Strippy Zipper bag by June Tailor. And make sure to subscribe to this channel if you like fun videos like this. So the bag we're making today is the Strippy Zipper Pouch kit, and in your kit you get this interfacing and you get instructions, and you also get this pre-made zipper, and it makes it super easy. You just kind of put your fabrics in there. We're going to be sewing with some Jolly Bar rectangles from Berry Basket. So what I'm going to be doing today is inside the pattern there's this QR code, and I'm going to watch the video that Jill Rep has done, and I'm going to follow it so that I can make this bag for you guys. And then I'll just show you my tips so you can watch her video, you can watch my video, but I guarantee I'm going to mess something up because I really don't know how to make bags. So let's see how this goes. Okay, so I'm going to get started, and I'm just going to scan the QR code and just start watching the video, and I'll make sure to show you things that I do the same and some things that I do different. The first thing I can tell you is in the video she tells you to use a denim needle. I'm going to use a size 90 needle because I actually don't own a denim needle, and I don't want to have to go out and buy anything special for this project. So I'm going to start with a size 90 needle. So the first thing I have done is I have taken my Jolly Bar and starched all of my fabrics. And so these are the fabrics all starched, and they're nice and stiff. So that's the first thing I'm gonna do. Before I watch the video, I'm gonna cut out the pieces. There are 4 pieces. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm cutting out maybe an inch or so away. And so you just want to make sure it says lining A, lining B. You want to make sure that you leave that. And here, you don't want to cut off the words body A or body B. So I've got that. Lining A and B and body A and B. I'm going to set that aside. And then what I am going to do is I'm going to follow her pattern and follow exactly what she says to cut. All of that is in your instructions here. But I'm going to watch her video so that you can see which fabrics she selected as 1, 2, 4, 3, 5, 7, etc., just to make it easy. So I'm going to do that. So just kind of follow her video and cut your strips. Okay, so what I started with by watching the video is I just did the fabrics exactly like Jill Rep did. And I just focused on cutting body. So I put a B for body. And then the biggest mistake I made is you have to cut 2 of each fabric. So originally I cut 1, had to go backwards and cut 2. So I've got everything laid out 1, 2, 4, 6, 3, 5, 7, 9, 10, and 8. Now the one tip I have for you is these pieces right here have to be 2.5 inches wide. I didn't cut them exactly because your fabric doesn't have to be exact because you're sewing on some lines. So as long as it's close to 2.5, you're fine. So this is my body, and now I'm gonna cut the lining A and B, and remember that I need to cut 2 of each. Okay, so now I have cut the lining, and pieces 1, 4, and 5 are 5 by 10, so you don't need to trim anything there. And piece 2 and 3, we use the same fabric, so I cut 4 1-inch strips, and then the strap, we'll do that later. So I've got all this cut. I'm gonna refer to her video and then come back and see what the next step is. So I've watched the June Tailor video, and I'm gonna also refer to the instructions. So I am taking body A. The biggest thing is you don't want to touch your iron to the actual interfacing. I'm going to do something slightly different, and you'll see that, but do not iron this, basically right here. Don't iron that. You're going to take a fabric 1 and place it right side up, and just make sure you have an overhang here and here. And then you're going to take a fabric 2 and put that right sides together. Then you're going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam down, and I'm going to start stitching out here and end out here. I'm not going to back stitch or anything, but all of this is going to come off. So just make sure you don't start stitching here. Just start stitching out here. And I'm going to try this with my regular 1/4 inch foot and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, I will let you know. So 2 things I'm going to do different here than she did in the video is I'm not going to pin. I'm going to see if I can get it to work without pinning. I'm going to try my regular 1/4 inch foot, see if it works, and I'm going to use a size 90 needle instead of a denim because I don't want to go out and just buy denim needles that I would only use on one project. And I'm using a white thread and I'm using a 1.8 stitch length. Now here what they recommend is that you take this and you press. So I'm gonna do that, but I'm also gonna add something else that she didn't do. But with a bag like this, it's really gonna drive me crazy if it's not nice and crisp. But like I said, you cannot touch the interfacing with your iron. So I found this little tiny iron that we sell, and I'm gonna try to use that to just iron a tiny bit without steam, without getting on the interfacing. And that's gonna give me this really nice flat seam. And from here, what I need to do is I just need to finish this entire body A. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take this, I'm gonna go ahead and finish all the way through body A, and I'm gonna go in order 3, 4, 5, 6, etc., etc. And then I'll come back and show you once that's done. So as I'm adding my body, as you get further out, you know, you can do 4 and 5 at the same time if they're opposite of each other. So that would be a tip just to save time if you wanted to. Okay, so I'm gonna show you a little trick. As you're adding, at some point you start losing your line. I'm gonna trim like a 1/16 of an inch off so I can see my line now. Okay, so this is body A, and you can still see the text through there. You just want to make sure everything is covered up. Basically, I have this all done. I'm going to do body B exactly the same way, and then I'm going to do an all over press. So this is your body A, and I'm going to do an all over press. Make sure you do not touch the interfacing. The interfacing will stick to your iron. So this is A, and you can see that when I cut these, they're plenty big, it covers everything. But on body B, I'm just slightly short on the ends and it will be fine. So I would just say my tip for you is cut the fabrics that are 2.5 inches wide one at a time. If it's not a full 5 inches, just cut it in half so that it's equal on each side. And then using my 1/4 inch foot did work. So I didn't know if it was gonna pull on the interfacing, it didn't. So I just used my normal 1/4 inch foot. And then here, I'm going to do a top stitch. This is the outside of the bag. So I'm going to pick a side and stitch right on, stitch in the ditch, and I'm gonna play with it and do a bigger stitch because I think that will make the bag look really cute with some top stitching. So that's just something different I'm going to try. And when I do that, whatever side I fall on this side, I'll have to mirror that on this side so that the stripe looks like it's going all the way around. So now I'm gonna top stitch and I'm gonna try a 3.0 stitch length. So like I said, I did the stitch in the same spot on each of them, and I just went a little bit to the right of where there was a seam. So some of them are on the right and some of them are on the left, and I just made sure they matched, and I'm gonna do one more all over press. So now I have my 2 bodies done. I'm gonna do the lining. I'm gonna do the same exact thing, except on the lining, I'm not going to add the top stitch because that is gonna go on the inside of the bag. And I don't think the inside of the bag needs any special stitches. So I'm going to do lining A first and lining B. Okay, so when you are doing your lining, you can see that your jolly bar shrunk a little bit. So just center it so that you just have a tiny bit over here and a tiny bit over here. So starching it is going to give the stiffness it needs, but it is going to shrink it a little bit. So just center those. So I've centered those pieces, and since I have done the body, I'm a little bit more familiar with the technique, and so I'm going to do 2 at a time to make it go faster now that I'm more familiar. And I'm going to remember to lower my stitch length back down to 2.0. Okay, so I have the lining done, but like I said, the jolly bar shrunk a little bit on both sides because I starched it. So we'll figure out how to account for that later. Basically, I'll just be using a little bit shorter stitch length when I get there, and the inside will just be a little bit smaller. But the next step in the video is she wants you to glue down or pin any of these on the sides. So I'm just going to use sew line glue and just glue that down. You don't have to worry about these sides, only these sides. And if you don't want to have to worry about that, then I guess you just wouldn't starch your jolly bar. But I have a hard time working without starched fabric, so anytime this kind of stuff happens, I just kind of work with it and make it work. So from here, you're going to take a top A and a lining A, so 2 A pieces. I'm going to put my lining A right side up. Then I'm going to take my body A right side down. And what you're going to notice is first line up these outer lines, and your lining is a lot bigger. So now that there's this shortage here, it's not going to matter because when you lay this on top, this is wider, so you should be fine. But basically, when you line this up, you want to make sure this is encompassed in this, so that on the back side, you will have extras, lots of extras, and that will make it account. So if you line these 2 up, you have accounted for this extra over here, because when you stitch, you're going to have plenty of room. So from here, you can pin this in place. I'm just going to pin the interfacing, not the fabric, and I've made sure that I have plenty of room here and plenty of room here. And then the real important part of this step is you'll notice there are solid lines and dotted lines. So you're going to only sew on the dotted line. So I'm going to start right here, back stitch, stitch here, use needle down and pivot, stitch here, needle down, pivot, all the way across, back stitch, and you're going to leave this open. So let's go sew that with that same stitch length. Okay, so making sure you're on the body side, not this side. So body side up, I'm gonna cut on all the solid lines. So the easiest thing to do is do the top and the bottom first. And then the side. And from here, I'm going to use scissors for this part. So now I'm going to clip the corners, and I'm going to show you how to do an outer corner and an inner corner. So we're going to zoom in before we do that. So for the corners, I'm going to use smaller scissors so I don't accidentally make too chunky of a cut. So on an outer corner, first you're going to do a diagonal, and then you're going to trim some of the weight off. That's how you do an outer corner. An inner, clip in a little bit, not all the way to the seam, and then you're going to cut some of this outside stuff out. And that's how your inside corner will look. And then now I'm going to cut all the remaining corners. So now I'm going to repeat that on my body B and my lining B, and then I'll come back when I have both done. So one thing I wanted to show you is, remember when we were making some of the pieces that were a tiny bit short, instead of stitching right on the line, I just stitched a little bit to the left. That's not going to matter because it's a bag, and then I still have that full 1/4 inch seam, so that's how I adjusted for the pieces that ended up being a little too short. So our next step is to turn everything right side out. It's just gonna take a lot of manipulating with your fingers. Okay, so to get these little small pieces out, I'm using a friction pin. The purple thing that I was going to use, I think it might poke into the interfacing, so I'm just using like a round tip of the friction pin to get all of that out, and it's probably gonna take me a little bit of time. Okay, so now that I have both of them done, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna run my tiny iron just around the edge. I'm not gonna iron right here because I don't want the fusible to start melting. You just have to gently get these creases nice and flat. So I'm gonna do that real quick. So right here, even though I pivot, there's like little creases right here. So hopefully that won't show up too much. So you can see kind of, I've got little creases. We'll see how that works out. Like I said, I'm not a bag maker. So now I'm going to just top stitch. I'll probably make it a bigger stitch, and basically we're just closing this so that you won't see your interfacing anymore. Now that I've done this top stitch, what I'm going to do is move to the strap. And earlier we didn't cut this, but if you look, right here it says to cut your strap 4 inches by 5 inches, so I'm going to cut that real quick. So now that I've cut this 4 by 5, I'm going to use the Clover hot ruler for this step, and we're going to go to the ironing station. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to fold this wrong sides together along the long side and add a crease. Then I'm going to open this back up and fold this back in. Do the same thing over here. And then go back over here. Now I thought I was going to use this hot rectangle ruler, but I ended up not needing it. Sometimes I use this for creasing my pieces. And now what we're going to do is we're going to top stitch right along the edge of both long sides, and I'm going to do like a 2.0, 2.5 stitch length so it looks really nice because you are going to see the stitches. So now I have that top stitched on both sides. I'm going to put that together, and on these short sides I'm going to sew all of these layers together to close it up. Okay, so here's how the strap looks, and I did stitch this as close to the edge as possible. Now we're going to move to the zipper. And this zipper is really cool because you're enclosing your fabrics inside of it. So it's already pre-made. It's not like a traditional zipper. So now I'm going to open the zipper, and so this will only work on one of the June Tailor zippers. This won't work on a normal zipper. I'm going to take body fabric and lining fabric A and put that down here. Normally you would stitch close to the zipper. This time we're going to stitch as close as possible to this folded edge and just center your piece in there. Okay, I think it's too bulky, so I'm just going to pin the two ends and just kind of hold it as I sew because that's super bulky. And I'm going to move my stitch length to like a 3.5 because this is so thick. It's got so many layers. If you don't, your stitch length is going to look funny. So I have that done. I'm going to add B. And when I do that, I just kind of want to make sure that this is slightly lined up. So the way to do that, I'm just going to do this. I know it's lined up. Open this up. Again, I'm going to pin, and I just stitched right close to the folded edge, which is totally opposite than normal. So right here, now you've got this white zipper, and so I want to embellish it. You can use anything you want, but I'm going to do exactly what Jill Rep did, and I'm going to take this fabric, and I'm going to cut 3 1.5-inch strips, and then I'm going to join them together on the diagonal. So to join them together, I'm going to start with these two pieces, and I'm going to just leave a little tiny piece showing just so I can see when I'm sewing where that line ends. So if you draw a line from corner to corner, we're going to stitch on that line. Now when you do that, it's going to open perfectly because I could see exactly where I needed to sew to. Trim a 1/4 inch away. Do the same thing here, and then we'll have one long strip. So here what I'm going to do is press to one side and then press open. That way it's not bulky. And then here, I just kind of want to see how big I want it to be. So the way that Jill did it was similar to this. And so to do that, what you can do, so to make it where it's really straight across, I'm going to use the 1/2 inch line on the hot ruler and then press, and that just keeps that straight, and it's going to make it consistent for each side. And you can also eyeball this. I just think this goes faster because I have less rework to do. And then I'm just going to pull this over, and I'm not going to pull too far because I don't want the raw edge to accidentally show through. So I'm just going to leave it about 1/8 to 1/4 inch away, do an all over press on the top. I'm going to cut this in half so I have 2 separate pieces. And here what I'm going to do is, this is the raw edge. So you put the raw edge down and it'll hang over a little bit. And I'm just going to try to center it in between the zipper and the edge, and I'm just going to put some glue down, and the glue is going to hold it in place. I think using pins at this point will just be too bumpy. And just get it as even as you can, and then what I'm going to do is top stitch right on the edge of both, and so there'll be 4 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to use that 4.0 stitch length. Now when you're sewing this zipper part right here, you can move your zipper out of the way. When you get to the zipper pull, push it back. So you can see my lines, my stitches are nice and big, so they look pretty, and you just move your zipper pull around so that it doesn't create a curve when you're sewing. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch across, and basically I'm trying to tack down the zipper because I'm going to come back and cut here. So I need to be not too far away but not too close, and you make sure your zipper is in the center when you do this on both sides. If you don't have it in the center, then you won't have a zipper pull. So I sewed this, and I had to change my needle because it broke, and that might happen when you work with zippers. Now I'm just going to trim the edge right here. And I just made sure I didn't cut into the seams that are right here. So now I'm going to open my zipper about halfway, because if you don't have it open, you won't be able to open your bag in a little bit. Then you're going to put your body sides together. Just make sure it's right in half, and then you're going to line up the bottom. I am going to try to line up my seams right here. Now there are so many fabrics right here because you have 4 quilting fabrics, you've got seam allowances, you've got the interfacing. So I'm going to use Wonder Clips. And what you're going to do here is along the bottom, you're going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to use my 1/4 inch foot, but if it's not working, you'll need to get out a walking foot. So now you're going to open up your bag to where the bottom and the top meet. Just put your hand through, and you're kind of lining up these. Now I'm doing the side that has the white fabric, and I'm going to put the strap right here, centering it in the blue. So I'm going to top stitch this down, sewing close to the edge and just keeping this out of the way. So now my strap is there, just hide it on the inside. And what I'm gonna do is on these two sides, you're gonna see these are longer, and that's great. I'm gonna draw a 1/2 inch seam line because I don't have a foot with 1/2 inch, and this is a 1/2 inch seam, unlike the rest. And then keeping the lining on top, you're gonna line this up and open this seam right here, and we're gonna sew across with the 1/2 inch seam. Okay, so we've made sure our zipper is still open, and we're gonna work on our sides. There are 4 sides right here that need to be closed up. I'm going to do them one at a time at the sewing machine, but what you do is you just open this seam. It's not gonna line up perfectly, and this is not gonna be in the center. It's gonna be slightly off, and you're just gonna sew this time with a 1/4 inch seam, and I am back stitching each time at the beginning and the end. I'm gonna open it and just turn it upside down and see how it came out. And that lines up pretty good. I have a couple of puckers like in the corners, but I think it's okay. So it kind of looks kind of funny on the bottom, but you just have to kind of maneuver it. And then I'm just gonna put some stuff in here. And then there's my cute little bag. It's not perfect by any means, but if I can do this bag, then you guys can too. Thanks for watching me make my Strippy zipper bag. It didn't come out perfect. It came out kind of close, but if you like videos like this where I just kind of wing it, let me know. And make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.